Hi, it's T with Teaquilts, and today is October 24th. That's what it is. It's Wednesday, and it's 7 p.m. USA Central Standard Time. If you're looking at this video at any other time, just know that you are watching an upload of a live chat. So today, we are going to talk about to wash or not to wash. So we'll just wait a couple minutes for other people to get into the room since I just opened the chat room. And I am also working on some device stands. I'm making some more for gifts. Some device stands. I'm making some more for gifts. So if you have not seen my video on the device stands, please go to Teaquilts or go to YouTube search and just put in Teaquilts and say device stand and it will come up. It is actually this little gadget here that will hold your cell phones and tablets. And I got a card wrapped around it. And this is what it is. I'm actually using one for my cell phone currently. So I have like 15 minutes in the chat. I didn't have a topic earlier. I just came up with it a few minutes ago. So a lot of people don't know that we even have a subject today. I have not been back into this room since last week. I've been busy machine quilting and editing videos and uploading videos. So I uploaded 2 works in progress, 2 completed projects. One was charity quilts and one was a UFO this week. And then I also did a Halloween postcard. And just the thought of the Halloween postcard, do you know my nephew has never received that postcard that I mailed him? So the mailman must have liked it too. So just interesting. I'm going to go ahead and do some shout outs. We've got Phyllis Garner was here with her. She has the first post for tonight. Hi, Phyllis. Thank you so much for joining me live. We've got Karen Henderson here. She says, hello, T and everyone from Indiana. Hi, Karen. Got Erica Solman is here. Hi, Erica. And Jennifer Mizards came out of hiding. She says, hello. Hi, Jennifer. I miss you. I was just thinking about you today and going, do I have to make a video to pull her out of hiding? Like, where in the world is Jennifer? Cheryl Land is here. She says, hey, Quilt family with a heart. Sarah Ragland says, hi, T and everyone. Darlene Former says, greetings from Northern Virginia. Mary Smith is here. She says, hello, T and everyone from Brooklyn. And we've got Sandra Weston here. She says, hello, everyone. Kathy Klein is here from Decatur, Illinois. Hi, Kathy. We've got Eric Oda here. He says, hello, hello, hello. And we've got Regina Rector here. She says, hello, T and everyone. Hi, Regina. Peggy O'Connor is here. She's from my local area. She's in my quilting guild and my scrap club. Hi, Peggy. She is from Florissant, Missouri. J. Mary Last One says, hello, everyone, T. I made it. Yay. Welcome. Bonita Nance is here. Says, hi, Miss T. I have Quilting Marine on phone and you on TV. Oh, my goodness. We're both live. I didn't know that. Jennifer Mizard says, miss you. I have to serve ice cream during your live chat and hardly ever get to see you. Oh, okay. I was wondering where you've been. Sandra Jacobs says, good evening, T and all. Hi, Sandra. And then we've got June Hansen here says, hi, Miss T and everyone. And some of you may have come on when I was trying to do a live test. I'm actually on my laptop now, but I was on my desktop trying to see if I could figure out how to use, what is it called? I'm blocking the name of what it's called now, but it's a type of software that you can use and you can put other things into your live streams while you're doing it, but I'm just blocking the name of it right now because I only was using it for a short period of time. But it did work, but I was having some other difficulties with some of the stuff that I wanted to put up, but it did show like my website, it did show my YouTube channel when I switched over. So it does work, but I was having a long delay, a long lag, so I decided not to do that tonight. So, the question I was asked quite a few questions last week. I did a video on one about the half square, how to square up blocks, and they saw me when I was actually squaring up the string blocks. So I squared up string blocks, half square triangles, and quarter square triangles, and I just used a basic square up ruler. At some future point, I will be doing videos on different ways that you can make half square triangles, as well as different tools that you can use to square them up. But for this first one, I wanted to just do something that was very general and basic, so you didn't have to have a lot of tools in order to do that. We've got Mary Last One says, "Is it okay if I am knitting while watching your quilting show?" Laughing out loud. You can do whatever you want. Just enjoy yourself. We've got Sonia Jones says, "Hi, T and everyone." And then Phyllis Gardner says, "Hello, everyone." Darlene Former says, "I was on at time, could hear and see you, but I could not chat with you." Okay. Yeah, you're not supposed to be able to like audibly respond, but I did see the comments in the chat box once I went over to the live part, because I was over in my part trying to do some different things to see if it would portray over on the other side. So it did work, but it was a long delay, a long lag time. We've got hi T and everyone. I have Quilty Marine on the phone too, like Bonita. Christine from PA. Hi Christine. So yeah. So the question that I was asked, the other question I was asked was about to wash or not to wash. And I can still do just a quick video on my take on that. But I thought this might be one of those things that is very controversial. And I thought that this would be a great chat, because I can then read off what other people's take is on that from the chat box. So I do want your opinions. And then I will start off with giving you mine, and then you can put your reasonings for pre-washing or not pre-washing in the chat box, and I will also read theirs and then read yours, and then that will also become part of this video. So a lot of people like to pre-wash, and when I started quilting myself in 1994, I came from the sewing industry, and I actually washed everything that I made when I was in the sewing industry, because I didn't want my items to shrink, especially when you're dealing with particular types of fabrics like linen fabrics. They would shrink a whole lot. So, and a lot of times I may wash, but I may not dry everything. And then when I started quilting, I also took that over to the next level. So, whenever I brought anything into my house, I automatically took it into my washroom, and I made sure that before it got into my stash that it was washed. So I pre-washed everything before I put it into my stash. And I'm using the term pre-wash very loosely, because I did not even use detergents. I just used water and ran it through a complete wash cycle without any detergent. Now, a lot of people will tell you you need to also use detergent if you're going to pre-wash. I don't think it makes much difference unless you are allergic, and we'll talk about that a little bit later down the road. But when you pre-wash, just know that if you have a pattern that says you need exactly 1 yard of fabric, you need to buy more fabric, because your fabric is going to shrink. I'm just going to guess and say about 3 to 5%. And then you're also going to lose the edges of your fabrics, because they're going to get tangled. And you can pink the edges to prevent some of that fraying, but you're still going to have some shrinkage of fabric, and you're still going to lose a little fabric on the edge either way. So just buy a little bit more fabric if you're buying it for a project. Just know that you're going to lose a little bit of it. Now, I say a little because I feel that fabrics are better made than they were in 1994. In 1994, the main fabrics that were out was basically your calico type prints. And they were not made as well. They had a looser grain, and we've gotten fabric weaves that are a lot tighter now. We also have the batiks that we didn't have available to us back then as far as everyday quilt making with. So that's one of the reasons why, I was pre-washing. Along came, I want to say probably around the same time that pre-cuts came out, is when I decided that, okay, this is kind of weird because I can't wash my pre-cuts, which you shouldn't wash your pre-cuts because there's a whole number of things that could happen. If you're washing 2.5-inch strips in your washing machine and it's going to do a spin cycle, there's a chance that it's going to get caught up under your spin mechanisms. You're going to lose a lot of fabric. It's not going to be 2.5-inch strips anymore or 5-inch squares anymore. So there's a number of reasons why you should not pre-wash your pre-cuts. And so now you're to the point where if I'm not going to wash my pre-cuts and I want everything to be the same, then I have to go buy more fabric, even though I may have something to go with this pre-cut at home, because now I've got all my other fabrics are washed, and now I got pre-cut that I can't wash. So I'm not going to wash the additional fabrics that I'm going to use with that. So I thought about that for a while, probably lasted maybe about 6 months to a year, maybe, that I paid attention to that. And then one time I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and start quilting, making my pieces. I don't care if they've been pre-washed or not. So, I'm one of those people, I'm very prolific with quilting. So if I lose a quilt, it's no big deal to me. If one quilt doesn't work out, I'm mostly using my quilts in lectures. So it's an experiment. I can do that. So I go ahead, make the quilt. I make sure that I wash that quilt. And when I wash the quilt, I always throw in the bounce color catcher sheets. And so I put a couple of those in there. And then they came out, they were kind of like light pinkish in color. So it had some color that was removed from the fabrics that I didn't cut. And I'm just going to estimate and say I probably had a 50-50 mix of what was washed and what wasn't washed. And to me, it made no difference in that quilt other than in any other quilt that I wash after it's been quilted, and you get how you get the softness from a quilt once it's been washed. I did not measure it for shrinkage per se, but it was for a queen size bed. It still fit my bed, and I still use it to this day. So I didn't see anything drastically different with that quilt. From that day forward, I decided I was not washing fabric unless I had a reason to. Now I'm going to give you my reasons. My first reason is there are certain colors of fabrics that are going to run. Your main color that's going to run is going to be your reds. And I have learned to pre-wash my reds, or if I'm going to make a totally red quilt, then I don't worry about it. I'll just go ahead and wash the quilt after the fact. But if I'm going to put it with something that's white or light in color, I definitely don't want my light background to turn pink. So even if you use color catcher sheets, you may not be able to prevent it from running into areas of a quilt if you're making a quilt that's say 30% in light and value. So if you're using reds, I recommend that you pre-wash those. Other colors that could have a tendency to run, you just need to check, is like navy blues, your dark blues, and then also your greens. So you're like more of your hunter greens, more into your dark greens again. So you're going to have to check that. I learned from a quilt shop owner, and she used to sell a lot of red material. And she used to take just a dry paper towel and she would rub the fabric with that white paper towel, and she would look at it. And if anything came off as far as red without any water, this was just a dry rub. And then she would know that that was going to really be a problematic fabric and it most definitely needed to be washed. So I do that with some of my fabrics nowadays. If I'm thinking that I need to check it, then I will do a dry rub. So other things that I pre-wash, flannels. I always pre-wash flannels because flannel has a very high rate of shrinkage. So you'll start out with, say your quilt is 70 inches, 75 inches, and you say, okay, I'm going to get two lengths of 45-inch wide flannel, and then I can put those two together and I'll have at least 80 inches and I can quilt that. Chances are you're not going to have enough fabric if you're using flannel. For some reason, flannel shrinks a whole lot. So be careful if you are using flannel. Other reasons for people, I don't have this issue to pre-wash is if you're allergic to various chemicals, because I have heard of people that have had breakouts, they've had sinus issues from the chemicals that are used to produce fabrics. So if you are in that category, you have very sensitive skin or very sensitive to air allergens, then you may want to pre-wash all of your fabric. I know we've got a lot of people coming in. Thanks, Eric, for telling everybody hello. But so those are my main reasons for pre-washing. I'm just trying to think. I wrote down just some quick notes so I wouldn't forget, but not a whole lot. So and again, I think I mentioned this, but I just want to say it out separately that your quilt will do a little bit of shrinking. So when I make my quilts, I just tend to make them so that they fit. I have a queen bed with pillow tops, and so if I know I want a quilt for my queen bed, I just make a 96-inch square. I find that that works for my particular bed with my pillow height. So you have to adjust quilt patterns for the size you want based on the size of your quilt. If your quilt, I mean your bed top, as far as the size of your actual bed top and then the depth of your pillow top. So that tends to work for me. And then things that you don't want to pre-wash again is your pre-cuts. And then if you know that you're going to make a wall hanging, most wall hangings never get washed. They may get dusted. That's all I end up doing with mine. And so I don't worry about pre-washing those fabrics if it's only going to be a wall hanging that's never going to get washed. Trying to think if there's anything else. Hmm. And then, like I said, I do mix the two, so I don't have a problem with that. I think I have answered everything. If you all got questions or if I missed something, then let me know, and I'll go through the chat box to see if you all have any suggestions as well. So let's see. Francine is here. She says hello to everyone. We've got Janet Mackerel. She says good evening, tea and quilting friends. Francine says when I have fabric that is stiff, I'll throw it in the laundry to soften it. That's a good idea as well. Thank you, Francine, for adding. Judy says hi, Janet, T, and everyone. Eric says he washed sometimes. J. Mary, last one says, I pre-wash and hot dryer, so everything happens to the fabric. I want to know before I sew, and that's a good idea too. It's just that I think since I don't buy the cheaper stuff, and that's why I'm into the touchy-feely. That was another question that I was asked in one of my videos when I did the fabric haul. Somebody wanted to know, how do I know good fabric by the feel? And it's something that you just have to get accustomed to, because when you go from one fabric manufacturer to another, they all sort of feel different. Some of them feel more silkier. Some of them, they may not feel as thick as some others. And so I was saying that one of the fabrics, they were kind of thin, but not that thin stuff that you can see through. And so I will hold it up to see if I can actually see my hand on the other side of it. And I couldn't see my hand as far as detail. You can see some shading, but I couldn't tell what was behind it. I just know that something got a little darker, but I couldn't see through it to actually see the shape of my hand. So that's what I kind of meant. So it's one of those things you've got to learn. Everybody in quilt making is at a different level as far as quality of fabric. If you are a beginner quilter, or if you're someone that doesn't have a large budget for quilting, maybe all you can afford is the very cheap fabrics. And I don't knock anybody's fabrics for quilt making, because my whole goal is I want you quilt making. I want you to be making quilts. And so I think we all are at different levels in our sewing path where we can afford things at one point. Maybe when you're young, you cannot afford to purchase the materials. And then the same thing could apply when you're retired and you're living on a fixed income. You can't afford to buy $13 per yard fabric. And so you are going to try to, use the sell tables. Maybe you may have to go ahead and buy fabrics that are cheaper in quality. I don't knock where anybody is in quilt making. It's just that I try to watch what I buy. And so I try, although it doesn't look like it, I'm sure, but I try not to buy a whole lot of fabric now, because that's where I have my stash, is because I was purchasing it while I was still working, knowing that when I quit work, I wasn't going to be buying as much. A lot of times when I'm buying fabric, I'm buying them for gifts. I'm buying them for my scrap quilting club. I might give them to my quilters in my immediate group that I do Christmas gifts for. So all the times when you see my hauls, they're not all for me. And then sometimes they're gifts for other people. And then sometimes I do add a few things in for myself, because who can shop for somebody else and not buy anything at all for yourself? So I do get a few items out of it, but it's not all for me. And then on the business side of this, also I will buy fabric, because I know people like to look at haul videos. And so therefore, if I make a video and I put it up on YouTube, if they're charging me, if I make money on it and then the government is taxing me on it, then I can also write some of that off. So that's another reason why I am probably buying more than I would normally buy on a regular basis. Go back to the comments. I have no idea where I left off. Okay, I think that was we got Shakita Pearson is here. Hi Shakita, thank you for coming. And we've got Janet says, me and Judy had a wonderful time at the quilt show in Claremont, Oklahoma on Friday. That's pretty awesome. I'm glad you all went. Francine says, I don't wash all the fabric. It depends. Sarah says, I also pre-wash. Deborah Belmlander is here. She says she made it. Hi, Deborah. Welcome to the chat. And Judy said it was her first quilt show. And Claremore is the birth of Will Rogers. Lauren King is here. She says, hi, T and everyone. Francine says, technology is amazing. Nita Hooper is here. She says, hello, everyone. The audio is great tonight. Thank you so much. I'm on my laptop. I'm only saying that so that you all can know the difference when I switch devices. Francine says, I wash flannels always too. Judy says, I pre-wash some and some I don't. Eric says, when I cut the selvages, I throw that in a cup of water and watch for bleeding. That's a good idea too, Eric. So thank you for that suggestion. Karen Henderson says, always flannels. And I rolled too far. I rolled way too far. I don't know how that happened. Okay. Karen says, no, not Karen. Ramona Speckman is here. She says, hi, T. How are you? I am actually doing great. I'm doing great, but I'm a bit busy. And I almost didn't want to come on live today. Isn't that horrible? Just because I've been so busy, it was like, you know what? I'm kind of tired, but being busy is a good thing. Mary Smith says, I hit the thumbs up button. Thank you, Mary. Everybody hit the thumbs up button if you can. I appreciate it. Debbie Morehouse says, I pre-wash pretty much all of my fabrics because mine are all for use. For pre-cuts, I wash the top when I am finished. Therefore, before I sandwich the quilt. Now that's different because I was told that you don't pre-wash your top, that you just go ahead and wash the whole quilt and then you can block, but that's different. Um, we've got Sylvia Mayo. She's saying hello to everyone. Yeah. And Eric is asking Debbie, doesn't that cause a lot of fraying? Yeah, because the quilt top that I have that I just took off my frame today, I quilted for a customer. It has a lot of fraying. And so I normally don't square up people quilts, but I went ahead and squared her quilt up because I knew that she was going to have difficulty squaring it up later because of the fraying. So I do think it would fray a lot. And then Francine says it also depends upon the quality of the fabric too, if she would also pre-wash. Erica Selman says, I learned from an old Founds and Porter book to pre-wash when I first started quilting. Now I don't pre-wash. So if I make a mixed quilt, I just quilt the heck out of it. So hopefully nothing happens. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I don't have as much problem. I'm one of those people that I like very close quilting. So I have some stitching within an inch. Like even if it's a feather, the feather space would be like, the inch or less between the space. So I guess that's one of the reasons why I haven't had any difficulty. But I've been making a lot of quilts with mixed fabrics, some that are pre-washed and some that are not, for many, many years. And I've done many, many lectures and I've shown my quilts in various places. Some of my quilts have been washed and used. Others that are heirlooms have not been washed and used just because I'm keeping them in that pristine condition, but I haven't had any problem with it. So I just stopped doing it because I got so busy with everything else that I was doing for quilting that I didn't have time to add washing into it, because pre-washing your fabrics and then you've got to dry them, as well as now I've got to take them out, sort them all back out and fold them all back up. It was just too much of a hassle. So I just quit. So that was my own personal choice, though. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying that's what I do. Ramona Bino is here. She says hello. Hi, Ramona. Debbie Morehouse says a little, but I will just trim it up prior to putting it together. I am so fly by the pants when it comes to quilting. I got a Windows update coming. I need to tell it to snooze. um, We've got Paulette Lee here. She says, hello, T and everyone. What kind of soap powder do you use to wash your quilts? Let's see. I have used all of as far as over time, I have used all of the different quilt washes available. And I'm going to tell you what I'm using now, and you're going to gasp. But I do like all of those. But I found the one that had, I'm blocking the name of it, it's called Quilt Wash. I think it was in a container like you would buy with hair care products or lotion product, moisturizer. And it was a twist off cap and it had a little metal spoon. I think it was called Quilt Wash. And then I would just take a scoop of that and put into the wash. And then that was kind of expensive. It was maybe $10 to $15 for that container of Quilt Wash, although it did last long. But I found that when I opened it and then air got to the container, that stuff started to churn colors. And then I looked up one time and it had like mold and mildew in it. I have at one point, we have a animal place in my area, in my next county of Florissant. And we would buy the horse soap, and I can't remember the name of it. And then we would split it, and then everybody would have horse soap because the soap that they used to wash the animals, the horses, was a mild soap. And so then I would use that. So if I'm not buying any of that, what am I using? I'm using regular detergent, but I am not using as much. I'm only using like a fourth of the recommended amount for if I was washing a load of clothes. So whatever they tell me for my size of quilt, then I would use like a fourth of that amount. And I haven't had any major difficulties with that. And I do wash and rotate my bed quilts seasonally, and I haven't seen any big difference in that. So that's what I'm actually using. There are a lot of things out there that you can buy. And I just find for the most part, anything that's geared towards quilters and other people use it, it's cheaper for the other people to use, and they tend to charge the quilters a little bit more money. So just be creative and try to look and see if there's something that other people are using to wash other things that are considered a mild soap, and then maybe you can use that. I think even something like Woolite you can use because it would be a mild detergent. So you can make your choice on what you use, but there are plenty of quilt washes in the industry. And if somebody gives me some for free, or if I get packets, which I just got some packets from a friend over the weekend, I will use those. I'm not against those. I just had a problem with buying a $15 jar of wash and then it molded and mildewed once I opened it. So that I have a problem with. Eric says, sometimes the cheaper fabric is better quality than the more expensive stuff. And I guess when I say cheaper, I'm not talking about cheaper as far as the dollar amount you pay for the fabric, but for the cheap fabric of how many yarns you've got going through the weft and the what's the other one? Going through the weave. I can't remember right now. But yeah, but I do recognize that, and that's why I'm mostly a touchy-feely person. I'm such a touchy-feely person that I can walk up onto somebody that's got on like some kind of suede or some texture fabric, and it's like I want to touch it so bad, and I have to tell myself, Teajuana, do not ask this lady, can you touch her shirt? Do not do it. Phyllis says, I usually use 100% cotton, no polyester added. I do that too. I don't like to use polyester fibers because if you use a hot iron when you're pressing, then it shrinks. That will shrink as you're actually pressing it. You have to be careful with having polyester in your fibers. And then Eric is asking, does anyone quilt with rayon? I made a quilt once with rayon, but you have to, it's so durable and it just wants to flop around. So you'd have to stabilize it. And then I also recommend if you're going to quilt with rayon that you most definitely wash and dry that fabric so we can go ahead and do it, shrink it. We got Teresa McBrayer here. She says, hi. Hi, Teresa. Sylvia says, I buy fabric according to what I'm making. And that's true too. And I also buy fabric according to who I'm making it for. So if I feel like they won't appreciate it, then I won't go into it a whole lot. And also when I do charity quilts, like in that video where I did the charity quilts, I had made a quilt back and then somebody came into Gill and was selling a whole boat of just solid green fabric for $5 for the boat. And I go, okay, for $5, and I'll go ahead and make 2 quilts. But I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't have gotten the $5 bolt of fabric. So it just depends on where, how, and when you get your fabrics. We've got Sandra Ingstrom here. She says, hi from Nashville. Hi, Sandra. Got Kathy Warren's here. She says, hello, everyone. And if some of the new people coming in, we're talking about whether to pre-wash your fabrics before you use them. Do you pre-wash your quilt top after it's made before quilting? Or do you pre-wash the entire quilt after the fact? And I scrolled by accident again. Hold on, I'm trying to go back. Debbie says, Eric, I just want my quilt to be fun to make. Erica says, I do like to pre-wash the bold batiks, especially if I'm mixing with lights. And that's a good idea too, because batiks do have the what they block off with wax, what they don't want to be dyed. So I think they have to wash them afterwards, but I'm not sure. But that's still a good recommendation, Erica. Thank you. Anna H says, hi from sunny California. Just got home from work. I hope I stay awake. Welcome, Anna. And then we've got Diane 57 here. She says, hey, T. Hi, Diane. Pamela Tabor is here. Shakita Pearson says, pre-wash, no. I don't even like to do laundry. I wash once completed with color catchers and pray. And that's probably exactly what I do. But like I said, I've been doing this for years. And I do the bleed test. And I do wash my reds. I will not use the reds unless they have been pre-washed. And then when I wash any quilt, especially for like the first 2 times, I make sure that I put color catchers in them. So they do work very well. So if you've never used color catchers, I think they're by Shout, if I'm not mistaken. You might want to try that as well. Mary Smith says, are you supposed to pre-treat batting? No, you're not. The only thing you're supposed to do with batting is if you are buying packaged batting, you're supposed to just put it into the dryer with a damp cloth if you've got lines from it being rolled in the package and you've got a lot of fold marks in the batting and you want to make sure that batting lays flat. That's the only treating of batting that you should be doing. Tracy Davis is here saying hello. Hi, Tracy. Karen Side says, I never pre-wash. I like my quilts to be used and washed, and crinkled is okay. I also figured our grandmothers didn't have time or enough water. And I just love the feel of quilts once they are washed. And so I don't pre-wash. And that's one of the reasons why I use cotton batting, because I do want my quilts to have some kind of a texture when I run my hand over the top. Good addition, Karen. Thank you so much. June Hansen says, oh, I don't know what that is, so I won't read it. I don't know what's happening with comments. I only wash fabrics when I buy them at thrift stores. That's from Sheeby. Teresa McBrayer says, I think they're talking about I think they're on a whole nother topic. They're talking about quilts and blocks. Trey says, hi all, I'm grilling outside, so I'm watching while I grill and have a beer. Have fun, Trey. Rhonda Barlow says, what about using synthepol to control the dye bleeding? You can do that as well. You can also use stuff like Retain. That's also, you can use them in conjunction with each other. You can do all of that. It's just that if you don't have the money, we're just talking about different options, but those are definitely products that you can use to stop the bleeding. A lot of people are doing that for shrinkage is why they're pre-washing though. But that's a good suggestion because I did not talk about that. So thank you for adding that. Eric want to know what's on the grill tray. Diane 57 says, I never pre-wash. I used to, and it was such a hassle, especially when you're pre-washing yardage. So I don't do it anymore, and I haven't had any problems. Phyllis says, do you start when before piecing? Yes, I do start. I do start my blocks. I will start my fabrics. If I just got some fresh new fabric and there's nothing completely wrong with it, like it's already sort of stiff, and I don't worry about starching. But most of the times I'm doing scraps. So I am starching everything because I'm pressing them before I cut. So yes, I do starch beforehand. And then once I get my blocks done, like after I get my string blocks done, then I go back and I put starch on that block. And there is a technique to starching as well. You want your starch to actually penetrate your fiber. So I will starch like say 15, 20 blocks at one time. I will go sew some more other blocks, come back in about 15, 20 minutes, and then I press the blocks that I put the starch in. And I do have a video on starching as well. If you do not let your starch penetrate the fibers and you iron right away, that's when you have all the gunk coming up on your iron because it's just sitting on the surface of the fabric. Eric says, I think these days fabric companies are getting better about color bleeding and lots of fabrics will shrink. June says, no present. And then I wash my quilts with 1 or 2 cups of white vinegar. I have very little bleeding. Okay. Karen says, map the soap. I don't know. Starching is a must for me. I tend to stretch my fabrics, manhandling them. That's from Eric. Oh, Napta soap. She's giving us another soap that you can wash with. Okay, thank you. And June, Judy is saying, June, I think the vinegar is a great idea. And I used to use vinegar a lot, and I only use it sometimes now when I particularly need it to do something. So I do use vinegar every now and then. Teresa says, I use Draft, all unscented with color catchers. And yeah, and that's a good idea too, because it's made for baby clothing. So it could definitely work for your quilts as well. Erica says, I just use regular detergent to wash my quilts. I make sure to put in a couple of color catchers the first time. Diane says, I agree, Eric, you have to starch before cutting. Eric says, June, never heard of using vinegar, any particular brand. I just use white vinegar, but we'll see what June is saying further down. Rhonda says, I'm confused. I'm not supposed to use regular detergent for washing my grandmother's quilts. Okay, something else for me to look up. And that was because those fibers were made differently back then. And those quilts are definitely going to bleed if you put water on them. If it's a quilt that your grandmother made, or if it was a quilt that was made, I'm going to just guess. I started quilting in 1994. So pre 1994, sure, it's going to probably bleed in the fibers. But I think fabrics were better before then. I just didn't know that there were quilt shops. I was still shopping at fabric stores like Sofro Fabrics, Cloth World, which was also called Joann's at the time. Susan Glenn is here saying, hey, T, sorry I'm late. You're never late. You're just on time. I hope you are doing well. I hit this button to scroll just a little bit and it just goes crazy. So I'm trying to go back and catch it because I hate to miss anybody's comments while I still have time. We're at 7:42, so I'm trying to read because I do want everybody's suggestions and ideas on washing. Okay. And we got Barbara Nelson that came in. She says hello. Joyce Rockamore says howdy. Welcome to both of you. Diane says, I've heard of using vinegar and white vinegar to make sure your colors are set, but that was when Mama was dyeing any fabric. Barbara Nelson says she washed everything. Teresa says she washes after, and I'm assuming she says she washed after she completes a quilt, and that's what I do. Rhonda says you can use your detergent as long as it doesn't include a bleach because detergent is made to get material clean. If you're worried, use Woolite on a gentle cycle. And I think I've referred that as well, too, that you can use Woolite because it's made for gentle wash. Barbara Nelson says, how do you feel about washing fabric? I went through all of that at the beginning of this video, so I'm not going to go back into that unless I get to the bottom of this comment section. But I did talk about my views on things at the top, so that way I wouldn't be influenced to say something that people are now currently saying. Susan Glenn says, I don't wash at all. Kathy Warren says she doesn't wash. Eric says, okay, T, if I bring my suede jacket to Houston, you can touch it all you want. I don't have to contain myself. Diane says, I watched the entire quilt after it's quilted and bound. Trey says, oh, she's talking to Eric. Okay. Pamela says, you are a hoot, Eric. He really is. June Hansen says, Eric, I just used the cheap kind. I heard setting in fabric years ago, and I have had good luck with it. Heard about like setting the fabric with the vinegar is what she's talking about. Eric, Trey is making oak and pecan, smoking her chicken. She's using oak and pecans while she's smoking her chicken. Okay. Sarah Ragland says, I use vinegar. I know one a year my grandmother used lye soap on her quilt, and I have one I'm repairing for my mama, but my mama has all my grandma quilts and they're beautiful. Okay. Sorry about that, Sarah. I'm having difficulties reading here. Barbara says, my grandma only used our old clothes, so she did not need to wash. You are exactly correct. If they only use clothing, and that's what my aunt used. She used a lot of old clothing. Teresa says she only washes reds. Sandra Jacob says, I never pre-wash, only will wash after it's finished. A quilt is not a quilt until it comes out of the dryer all warm and crinkly. Yeah, I learned that it's nice to take a quilt right out the dryer and wrap yourself up in it. I learned that from having a surgery in the hospital when they bring you the little warm blankies. And yeah, that's pretty cool. My daughter will sometimes take her quilts and go put them into the dryer so she can get some heat on them before she go to bed. Rita Williams is here. She says, I'm late, but hello, everybody. Hi, Rita. Rita, let us know if you wash your fabrics before you quilt. Hopefully, I'll get through it, the comment section, so I can read it. Debbie says she used vinegar in her dark laundry all the time. I mix with water at first before adding clothes. Same for quilting is my theory. Sarah Raglan goes, no, I use vinegar to clean my house. Darlene Former says, do you pre-wash your African fabrics? No, I do not. I just go ahead and use them. Most of the time, and I'm going to say most of the time that I'm using African prints, I'm mostly using like dark browns or blacks to set them with. So I have not washed any of those either. And the new African fabrics are just as great as the modern day cotton. If you're talking about the kente cloths and stuff like that, then that's different. They have a different feel, but I still don't pre-wash anything. Debbie Wagner says, we have hard water, so it softens the water, the vinegar, I'm assuming that she's adding in. Mary Lewis here. She says, hi, TN everyone. I use liquid starch. I put the fabric in the refrigerator overnight and iron the next day. Comes out very crisp and nice. Great idea. I used to use a lot of liquid starch as well before I start making my own. But I love liquid starch because you get a whole lot for the price. Very nice. Tracy, I usually read the instructions on pre-washing my fabric, and mostly they instruct to post-washing rather than pre-washing. June says, T, it will not let me say pre-wash. Now it is. Okay. YouTube is a mess. Sometimes they'll kick you out for saying particular words, but I know I don't have anything about washing as a tickler. Hold on. I like sizing instead of starch. That's from Bonita. I used to use sizing a lot too when I was a few years back. I just stopped buying anything in the aerosol cans And so that's why I don't use sizing anymore, but I used to use sizing a lot. Karen Side says, I was wondering if, oh, the naphtha was the animal soap you mentioned that you used to use. And I can't remember the brand because one of us, like somebody in our group would go pick it up and then we would like split it between us. And so I never had the original container, so I don't know the actual name. I'm sure I was told at the time, but we haven't done that in a long time, but that's what we used to do. But thank you, Karen. And Trey is reminding everybody to just hit the thumbs up button, everyone. Okay, we've got June Hansen saying it was in Kelsey Connor in a newspaper, and that is what she told this person. It's like setting the dye in dyeing Easter eggs, and my aunt had me use it when washing diapers, so that's why she's using the vinegar. Oliver Creeman says, hi, I'm Oliver from Limerick, Ireland. Hi, Oliver. Do you have a preference in Ireland for pre-washing your fabrics? Please let us know. Eric wants to know what time is it? Oh, it's 1:45 a.m. Oh my goodness. Top of the morning to you, Oliver. A lot of people are saying hi to Oliver. Diane57 says, ooh, T, sounds like Eric is tempting you. He really wants that pound cake. Yes, he does. Rita says she only washes her reds. Thank you for sharing, Rita. And then Eric says, here's a question. Do you treat your fabrics differently when you are entering a quilt to be judged? And no, because those judges are not going to wet your quilt. They can't do that because they don't know if anyone's quilt has been pre-treated with anything. So no, I don't. I just don't wash my quilts if I'm going to send them to a show or if I feel like they're going to be heirlooms. Some quilts I make and I know that those quilts are worth a lot of money. And so sometimes I will get those quilts appraised. Some of them I know from having other quilts appraised what's going to be worth money. And so I don't wash those quilts. So in my lifetime, they will not get washed. If my family decides to wash them after I'm gone, that's on them. But I also share that information with my daughter, so she's aware of that as well. But I don't do anything differently if I'm going to enter a quilt into a judge show. It's still the same process. Oliver says, hope everyone is good tonight or today, depending on where you are. Thank you so much. I'm doing great. A lot of people in the comment section is doing very well as well. So thank you. Regina Ector is here. She says, good night, everyone. Hope you all have a peaceful evening. Bye, Regina. So Pamela says she has never entered a contest. Gabriel Sales says, send a hello to us from Brazil. Hi, Gabriel. Welcome. And I'm hoping I didn't miss anyone's comments. I'm going to go down a little bit. Diane says, I think the soap was called Head and Tails. It was a shampoo. It was supposed to make your hair grow really long and thick too. I don't know what it was. All I know is that we used horse soap that they used to actually wash the animals with, to wash our quilts at one point. Anna says, is your single quantrum still sewing fine? Yes, it is. I did not sew last week. I have not sewn in here since last week because I've been doing machine quilting. The only thing I sewed on here was I took off a quilt top that I haven't uploaded. I just finished the hand binding today, and I put my bindings on my long arm, but there's that part where I can't put it together because I have to connect the two binding pieces. So I did that and then just sewed like 12 inches. So that's the only sewing I did this week. But I am just surprised that it has been sewing as well. So I'm still sitting here. I haven't gotten a call yet for pickup on my machine. Trying. I think this Saturday will be 2 weeks that it's been in the shop. So we shall see. I'm hoping that they'll be calling me soon to pick up my Elagio, which is at the shop. And it's just there for a basic cleaning because I haven't had one in maybe 5 to 7 years because I do it myself most of the time. So, and now Eric's next question. He says, okay, does anyone block? I think that's what it's called, their quilts. And that is what it's called. It's called blocking. The only time I block a quilt is when I'm actually going to send it to a show. Other than that, I don't block the quilts. I make sure that they're squared up before I put the binding on, and then I just go for it otherwise. So I would love to have some other opinions on that as well. 7:53 p.m. for Diane in Texas, USA. I think she's telling that to Oliver and Gabriel. And Gabriel says that she doesn't know English very well. That's just fine. Rita says the shampoo is called Mane and Tail. I still wash my hair with it. Okay. Thank you, Rita, for sharing that. Okay. Woohoo! I got down to the bottom of the comments. That's pretty awesome. Bye, Oliver. Oliver's saying he's going to go to sleep now. Good night from Ireland. See ya. Thank you so much for popping in. Anna says, I'm such a beginner. I've only made 2 quilts and I gave them away as gifts before washing. I didn't want to mess them up. And that's fine too. I mean, they can wash them if you're giving them away as gifts, but I tend to just go ahead and wash them anyway before I gift them. I wash the charity quilts before I give them away. Another reason that I pre-wash is sometimes I take my quilts outside on my deck, and so I may lay them out because it's too big for me to lay out on any floor or wall space inside my house. So if I'm laying it out on my deck and somebody has allergy issues, I don't want to give them a quilt where they've got all of that into the fiber. So I will just go ahead and wash it. So that's one of the reasons that I wash is because I also will use my deck as a design space. And truth be told, I've given away as gifts that really should have been washed before I gave them. So yes. So that's it. We only got like a couple of more minutes left before our hour is up. And I thank you all so much for participating because it's great when people ask me some questions, and I try to instill in some of my videos that when I'm giving you answers to questions, that doesn't mean that they're the only answer. It's just that this is how I do it. And I try to tell that in my videos as well, because there are so many ways to do the exact same thing. So I never want somebody to think that what I'm saying is how you should do it. It's just a matter of this is what I do, whether it's right or wrong. It's just what I do. Eric is reminding everybody also to do the thumbs up. So go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, everybody. Eric says, I just noticed I got a rent next to my name. Am I on timeout? No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Last week I went through and I named a lot of people as moderators, and that's what that means. So if somebody is having an inappropriate comment and I'm not saying it because I'm showing you quilts or I'm showing you a technique, I made quite a few of you all moderators. I think I did Eric. I can't remember them all. I may have gotten Diane 57. I think I got Claudette Bettis. Cian Forrest, maybe. I had 6 names and that's only 4. So it's 2 more people I made moderators. And if anybody else want to be a moderator, I can add you. I just know that I needed people that were kind of in most of my chats. So if anybody else wants to be a moderator, I will most definitely add your name to the list. And let's see. And Karen says she did her thumbs up. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. And then he figured it out. Oh, I'm a moderator. Okay. Darlene Former says my cat, Miss Cleo, sits on all of my quilts. So I wash them after I complete them. That's a great idea because people might be allergic to cat hair as well or dog hair. Susan Glenn go, ha ha ha, you were moderator, I think. And that's Diane saying good night to Gabriel. Good night, Gabriel. I think it was me making the inappropriate comment. He is a mess. You are a mess, Eric. Oh gosh. Good night, Gabriel. Trey says, I really enjoyed this hour now that I'm working again. So sometimes I have to watch the recording. I'm so jealous of the retired tea quilters. Don't be jealous, just keep a living. One day you will have that opportunity as well. Deborah says, so much good information. She says, Fail's Naphtha soap is a bar, and I remember Mom having us use it when we had poison oak. Okay, I've never heard of that one. Good night, Ramona. I see a lot of people are telling her good night. Sarah says, Eric is crazy. Yes, he is. He even says, yes, I am. So that's why my screen keeps going crazy because it's going up with the comments. Phyllis Garner says, good night, all. Informative session. Thank you. Bye, Phyllis. We're going to be leaving in a minute. I'm just trying to get through the last comments here. Susan Glenn says, I'm still sitting here working. Oh, thank you for joining us, though. Paulette Lee says, good mock all. Hi, Paulette. Rita is saying thumbs up and enjoyed myself. Good night, everybody. Good night, Rita. So yeah, so we look like we've just got a lot of people saying good night. So I am just going to go ahead and end this video here. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget that we're going to meet in Paducah. I don't have the date in my head, but it's the Friday at 1 p.m. right around the front ticket purchase area, your main ticket purchase area. And I will probably do just a separate video for people that are not in chat. For those that are still here in chat with me, make sure that you have commented on some video outside of the chat. I don't care which one it is, just say hi, T. Because those of you that are my regulars know that I am going to be doing a drawing for my annual viewer appreciation. It's in November. At the same time, I will be announcing who the viewer of the year is. And you must have commented on a video within the past year. So I can't read chat messages when I go out. And YouTube has made it so that we don't know if you are a subscriber to our channel or not. So I need for you to at least have commented on a video within the past year outside of chat. And I know a lot of you comment on chat, but you don't comment on any videos. So please make sure that you comment on any videos. And then when I do my video, I'm going to ask you to comment on that video as well. You've got to be in two places in order to win. So that's why I'm trying to make sure that you all know. So I see a lot of you all have been saying your goodbyes. So I am just going to go ahead and end here, and I will see you next week. Happy quilting, everybody, and I will see you then. Bye-bye. Later, Gators. That's from Susan.